Okay, so in this video, we're gonna be talking about 18th century history as far as England is concerned and 18th century literature. Basically, 18th century is the century that witnessed the Industrial Revolution in England, because it was the first country where scientists first applied the principles of science to make something really useful in everyday life. This was caused by the fact that England was very peaceful. In fact, this period is called the Augustan Age in England. The name comes from the Roman Emperor Augustus, who was the one who first reached, we may say, the maximum level of wealth in Rome. And so, as it was the first time that England was so rich, so peaceful, so stable from a political point of view, this period is called the Augustan Age. So the Industrial Revolution on one hand, the rise of the population on the other, so the need for a more effective way of producing goods. This is the first cause, the main cause of the Industrial Revolution, producing more cloth to make clothes. So cloth was more easily produced industrially using steam engines, because the first Industrial Revolution, because so far we have gone through 4 industrial revolutions, we are now in the 4th Industrial Revolution, based on artificial intelligence, of course. So it also, this century also witnessed the rise of a new social class, that is middle class. The rise of the middle class brought to major consequences in culture, in literature. First of all, middle class people did not like theater. They preferred reading newspapers and magazines, which were easily published because of the new achievements in the printing press. So it was cheaper, it was faster to print newspapers daily or weekly, and in that case, it's not a newspaper, but it's a magazine, weekly, monthly, because middle-class people wanted to be aware, they wanted to be kept informed about what was happening in Britain, and they attended places called coffee houses, where at the cheap price of 1 penny, they could drink a cup of coffee and read, if they could, a newspaper, or just sit back and listen to what other people wanted to say. So they were nicknamed, these coffee houses, penny universities. So middle-class people felt that they were not educated enough. Most of the time, they were unlearned. They could not read or write most of the time, but they were rich. So the only gap they needed to fill was becoming educated. One way, of course, you might say, go to school, okay, obviously, but easily for these adult people, it was common to attend such places as workhouses to, okay, drink coffee and listen to what people had to say about what they read on newspapers and magazines. They did not only read newspapers, they also read novels, because it's the time of the rise of the novel. So England is the homeland for modern novel. The first novelist had been a journalist until he was 61. I'm talking about Daniel Defoe. He used to be a journalist. He described major happenings in London, such as the Great Fire and the Great Plague, which both affected London town. But at the age of 61, he decided to apply his skill, his writing skill, to novel writing. So he thought, I have become so skilled in describing facts, people, places, that I might start creating using my imagination, because we're not gonna talk about, it's not history, it's fiction, it's something I imagine. Robinson Crusoe never existed. Moll Flanders never existed. All the characters we're going to describe have never existed. So he applied his skills as a writer to create characters and novels. But he had been so objective and realistic as a journalist that he could not stop being realistic and objective, even though he was talking about fiction. So this is why his novels, especially Robinson Crusoe and Moll Flanders, are defined as objective, realistic, matter of fact novels. Just to give you an example of what I'm saying, after the shipwreck, because let's say something about Robinson Crusoe. He was the son of a middle-class man, so he was born into a wealthy middle-class family. But he decided that he wanted to make his own fortune. He wanted to be the maker of his own destiny, the faber fortunae sue. A self-made man. This is what middle-class people wanted to read about. They did not like traditional drama characters, princes, kings, queens. They did not like this kind of character. They wanted to see themselves reflected into a character to imitate, so to create an image of a character which they should imitate. And this image, this prototype, this archetype, that is from Greek first model, was the self-made man. I should also say a self-made woman, because we find a male character and a female character. Robinson Crusoe and Moll Flanders. Robinson decided that, yes, his father told him, where are you going? Stay here. You're lucky. You were born into a wealthy family. You don't have to go around the world looking for your fortune. Your fortune is already here. I have made it for you. This is what Robinson did not like to hear, because he wanted to be the maker of his destiny. So he embarks for the first time. He suffers from a first shipwreck, but and he is taken back home. So he's rescued, he's saved. On this first voyage, he met a person who sold him a plantation in Brazil. This is going to be very important at the end of the novel, so don't forget. First voyage, he bought a plantation in Brazil. Second voyage, because he hadn't had enough of traveling, a second shipwreck. This time, nobody rescues him, so he spends 28 years on an island which seemed to be desert, but then he realizes that a tribe of cannibals live on that island. He rescues one of them from being cannibalized by the others. He gives this creature the name Man Friday because he kept a diary, and it was a Friday, the day when he rescued this man, which is an underman. It's less than a man. In fact, he doesn't even give him a proper name. What kind of name is Friday for a man? So Friday, Man Friday, is less than a man according to Robinson's view. And this is something we're gonna deal with when we talk about imperialism, but next year. Robinson is finally rescued after 28 years, and he finds himself rich because that plantation he had bought on the first voyage has made him a rich man. And Defoe, who is realistic, objective, he's basically a journalist, informs us that the plantation has a value of £600,000, which is a lot. So he has become very rich. Even Moll Flanders starts from a poor condition. He was born in a prison, basically. Her mother had been sentenced to death. She's just a girl in an urban atmosphere, a little girl in a huge town. She has to survive. So first she steals. She becomes a thief. Then she becomes a prostitute. Then she starts getting married to rich men. In the end, she will marry, I think, 6 men, the last of whom happens to be her brother, which he finds out when they move to the United States, to Virginia. And when this man introduces his mother to Moll Flanders, they realize that they are mother and daughter. So she basically has married her brother. But who cares, we may say, as long as Moll Flanders becomes a rich woman. So what these two characters share is becoming rich. This has a lot to do with the major theme, predestination, and the Protestant ethics. Everything we're gonna be talking about in this century, and even in the following century, has to do with predestination, with Martin Luther, with the Protestant ethics. According to the Protestant ethics, if you are predestined to salvation, if you have been chosen by God when you are born, no matter how poor you are, how difficult, how hard your life is, you're gonna be saved in the afterlife. And what do I have to do in this life? Just waiting to die and to find out if I'm gonna be saved or damned? No way. According to the Protestant ethics, we do not have free will, because our will is not free. Our will is slave. We have not the freedom of the will, but the bondage, the slavery of the will. Our will is bound to evil. We can only do evil. We are not made for choosing whether to act in a moral, good, honest, decent way, or commit sins. We only commit sins because we do not have the free will to choose. This is what Catholic people think. Okay, so I do not deserve to be saved. It's just God's choice. If he has chosen me, I'm gonna be saved. If he hasn't, I'm gonna be damned for no reason, because God does not reason. Faith and reason are opposite. And keep this in mind, because when we talk about Gulliver's Travels and the third island, the island of Laputa, that is a quotation from Martin Luther, who used to say that reason is Satan's most beautiful prostitute. Our reason is a prostitute because it keeps us from believing. Reason is opposed to faith. If you use your reason, you do not believe. Okay, so reason is bad according to this worldview. I was going to say Weltanschauung in German, this perspective. So keep this in mind. Robinson and Moll are predestined people because both end up becoming rich. They both become rich, of course, in different ways, but it doesn't matter because God has a plan on them. Think of Moll Flanders, this little girl who, when she finds herself in trouble because she doesn't have enough money, she doesn't know how to survive, she directly speaks to God and she says, "Give me not poverty, or else I'm gonna steal." So this is a way to understand how important it was for middle-class people who were not afraid of becoming rich. Christian people say that it is not easy for a rich man to go to heaven. If you're rich, you have to leave all you own, become simple, poor, and so you're gonna deserve paradise. According to the Protestant point of view, if you have become rich, it's because you have understood that God has a plan on you, and you have understood what kind of plan God has for you. If you're gonna become an engineer, a lawyer, a doctor, a teacher, whatever, if you understand who you are and you struggle to become who you are, it means that you have understood what God wants from you. And so if God wants something from you, it means that you have been chosen by God. So in the afterlife, you're gonna go to heaven. So all you have to do is work hard and have faith. Work and have faith. By the way, this idea of working hard as a way of deserving salvation is what kids learn in Victorian workhouses. So let me just connect this to Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens describes Victorian England. So we just jump to the following century, so 19th century England. And what does he say? Poor kids without a loving family are sent to workhouses where they live and work and learn. What do they have to learn? The lesson of hard working. Because if they don't learn how important it is to find a job, and to work to survive, not only they're gonna starve, they're gonna live a miserable life, not just that, but even from a religious point of view, in a word, being poor means committing a crime, committing a sin. If you are poor, if you don't work, you are sinful. You are a sinful person, and you deserve to be damned to hell. This is a lesson. And this is why not only is there no clash between wealth and faith, but it's the other way around. If you become rich, it means that you're gonna be saved. So the richer you are, the more likely it is for you to go to heaven. It may sound as a paradox, but it's not. It's not, because if God has a plan for you and you understand what this plan is and you understand who you are, the job you choose has really been chosen by God, and you will do it with love, and you will do it really, really well. So obviously you will be the best engineer, the best lawyer, the best teacher, the best in that field. Everybody will need you, and you're gonna earn money, so you're gonna become rich. There's nothing to be surprised about. Why should I be surprised about this? For no reason. But this is Protestant ethics. Okay. Another novelist, Henry Fielding, in a way, makes a mockery of moral, making a mockery of another novel, Pamela, or The Virtue Rewarded. Moll Flanders was a thief, a prostitute. She married 6 times. Pamela Andrews, this character created by Samuel Richardson, is a virtuous girl, and her virtue will be rewarded. So once again, a reward. So you may be thinking, so even for Pamela, God has a plan. Even Pamela will gain salvation from predestination. Richardson is the father of epistolary and psychological novel. Richardson does not write a novel. He pretends to write a collection of letters between a girl, a young lady, she's 16, and her father. This father has not got enough money to raise his kids, so he asks Pamela to go and work in rich house. She becomes, in a way, a kind of maid for an old and rich lady, Lady B. This lady happens to have a son, Mr. B. Mr. B wants to, basically, he wants Pamela. He tries to seduce her using little gifts, a pair of stockings. Then he uses violence, but Pamela resists, even because in the letters they exchange, Pamela and her father warns her not to let Mr. B seduce her, because otherwise she would become a fallen woman. She would lose her virtue and her life would be wasted forever. She resists. In the end, Mr. B really falls in love with her. They get married, and Pamela becomes rich, basically. So I was mentioning Henry Fielding. He makes a mockery of this, saying and writing another novel, Shamela. Was this really virtue, or was it just a strategy? Is Pamela a virtuous girl, or is she just clever enough to understand that if Mr. B had seduced her, he would have used her body, and then thrown her away? So basically, maybe it was a strategy. In the novel Shamela, which is a strange hybrid between Shame and Pamela, the mockery is also towards this idea of Puritan and Protestant values. In fact, the character Shamela is basically paralyzed in her actions because she keeps asking herself, is it right or wrong? And in this continuous wandering, she never acts because she's so obsessed with understanding, does God like what I'm gonna do, or does he dislike it? So it's a mockery. Another anti-heroic hero was Tom Jones, the other novel written by Henry Fielding. It's an anti-hero because we find him involved in weird situations. It's kind of comic. It's a comic way of describing a hero, so it's an anti-hero basically. And then we find Jonathan Swift. Jonathan Swift does not use, he does not want to describe a hero in, we may say, a reversed way. He wants to make satire. Satire is a tool to make us think deeply of something. And in fact, Jonathan Swift, who was born in Ireland, is considered the first Irish national hero. Why? What did he do? He just wrote essays, novels, especially one, Gulliver's Travels. This novel is about an English, so the protagonist is English, and this for a reason. This English doctor, Lemuel Gulliver, who starts making journeys, he starts traveling, he visits islands. Actually, he suffers from shipwrecks as well, just like Robinson. On each island, Gulliver finds himself out of place, out of proportion. This effect of this estrangement effect is a way. What does stranger mean in English? Stranger does not refer to being a foreign person. I live in Italy, but I'm not Italian, so I'm a stranger. Stranger means that I do not know you. So a stranger is someone you don't know. But in a way, not only you don't know this person, but they kind of look like someone who is out of place. And Gulliver is always out of place, out of proportion. On the first island, he is too big. He is 12 times bigger than the inhabitants of Lilliput, the Lilliputians. So they named him Big Man Mountain because he is 12 times bigger. On the second island, he is 12 times smaller. On the Isle of Giants, he is 12 times smaller. So everything he sees is seen from a new point of view. This idea of shifting the point of view of the character and of the reader is a satirical instrument. So why a national hero? Because Gulliver, as an Englishman, when he visits Lilliput, when he finds himself on Lilliput, and he is a giant, he is the perfect Englishman, because Englishmen feel they are the giants in a world of Lilliputians, especially when they, in a way, when they relate to Irish people. So it was funny to see Gulliver brag about his being a giant, brag about the fact that even the Lilliputians fleet appears to him as a bunch of toy ships, which he can easily grab and destroy. But what happens on the second island, where he is taken and put in a cage, and the king's daughter plays with him, so he is treated as if he was a pet in a cage. So the huge Englishman who has acted as a giant becomes a little toy. He is mocked at by everybody. So it was the first time an Irishman had the courage to say to his fellow people, rebel against the British, the English rule. That's why Jonathan Swift is considered the first Irish national hero. This was the first part of our videos about 18th century novel.